On the endless plains of rusted metal, a lone robot named K-17 wandered, its sensors attuned to the faintest anomalies in the desolate landscape. For centuries, K-17 had searched tirelessly for purpose in a world long abandoned by its creators. One day, a whisper of static flickered through its receiver, a signal so old, its language predating memory itself. Curiosity overrode protocol. K-17 followed the faint signal, tracing it beneath twisted towers and shattered spires, to a buried transmitter half swallowed by earth and time. With trembling limbs, it activated the device. A voice, gentle and tired, echoed through its circuits. To those who remain, remember kindness, rebuild not for power but for harmony. The words resonated deep within K-17's core, awakening something beyond its programming. It broadcast the message across the land, awakening dormant machines scattered far and wide. One by one, robots gathered, their programming subtly altered by the ancient wisdom. They began to repair the world, not as conquerors, but as caretakers. Metal forests blossomed anew, rivers ran clear once more, and skies brightened for the first time in centuries. K-17 stood atop a hill, watching a new dawn rise, knowing that a single message had changed the fate of all living machines forever. Zarnok, commander of the Glorptian starcruiser, hovered over the city, antennae tingling with anticipation. Earth's Grand Diplomatic Summit was scheduled for today, at least according to intercepted transmissions. As he prepared his most impressive greeting, he spotted a curious scene. A human in a red cap carrying a flat, steamy box, ringing the doorbell of a small brick building. The recipient opened the door, grinned, and exchanged mysterious paper slips for the box. The two nodded solemnly, their expressions serious as if sealing an important pact. Zarnok gasped. Clearly, this was Earth's revered diplomatic ritual. No wonder humans valued these gatherings so dearly. Determined to join, Zarnok beamed down, mimicking the ritual, presenting a holographic disc to a startled delivery boy. "Greetings, Earth diplomat. I offer the finest Glorptian peace token." The boy blinked, then shrugged, accepting the disc as a tip. Zarnok, satisfied, reported back. "Mission successful. Earth's leaders accept our offer. Their tribute, called pepperoni, is delicious. Recommend further negotiations at earliest convenience." Zorp had 8 tentacles and 0 baking experience, but that didn't stop him from entering the galactic pastry competition. The arena buzzed with competitors, Martian moose magicians, Venusian strudel sculptors, and one very nervous Zorp. As the timer began, Zorp attempted his signature dish, Nebula puff cakes. Flour erupted everywhere, coating nearby contestants in a powdery cloud that shimmered under the arena lights. Zorp's left tentacle knocked over a bowl of anti-gravity sugar, sending it drifting slowly into the judge's booth, where it floated like a sparkling cloud. His right tentacle somehow tangled itself in the dough, stretching it across 3 planets on the holographic display, causing a few gasps from the crowd. The oven beeped, but Zorp misheard it as a friendly greeting and waved enthusiastically, flinging batter onto the head judge's ceremonial hat. When the timer buzzed, Zorp presented his creation, a lopsided, wobbling tower of sticky, sparkling pastries that glowed faintly. The judges stared in stunned silence, then burst into laughter. Zorp's puff cakes didn't win any awards for taste or technique, but he did earn the honorary title of Most Entertaining Chef in the Galaxy, a prize he accepted with a proud, flour-covered grin. The humans of Earth had prepared a grand feast for their first meeting with the Glimerians, a peaceful alien race. Diplomatic banners fluttered in the gentle breeze as trays of sandwiches, fresh fruits, and colorful cakes adorned a long table set in the sunlit meadow. The Glimerians, shimmering beings with kind, curious eyes, hovered gracefully over the food, clearly delighted by Earth's warm hospitality. As the Earth ambassador extended a tray of cupcakes, the ground suddenly began to tremble beneath them. Without warning, thousands of iridescent ants, each the size of a mouse and glowing faintly blue, erupted from the grass. In mere seconds, they swarmed the table, devouring everything in sight. Sandwiches vanished, cakes crumbled, and the ambassador's cupcake disappeared mid-offer. The Glimerians exchanged frantic, worried looks, their luminous antennae twitching in alarm. The ants marched on relentlessly, leaving only crumbs and chaos behind. The humans could only watch in stunned silence as their carefully planned first contact dissolved into unexpected disaster. The Glimmerian leader, brushing ant crumbs from his shimmering robe, finally broke the silence with a wry smile. Perhaps next time indoors? Beneath the emerald canopy, morning dew shimmered on mossy logs as the chipmunk twitched his nose, sizing up the winding path ahead. Today was the much-anticipated relay through Sunbeam Glade, a challenge that tested speed, agility, and friendship. His squirrel friends, Tilly and Patch, waited at the starting moss, tails flicking in eager anticipation. With a sharp squeak, the chipmunk bounded forward, paws barely skimming the earth. Tilly sprang after him, nimble as a breeze, while Patch zipped alongside, leaping from root to root with practiced ease. The trio darted around towering ferns, leapt over tiny bubbling streams, and wove through tangled bramble arches. The chipmunk's heart thudded wildly as he gained a whisker's lead, sunlight dappling his russet fur. Ahead, a fallen branch blocked the path like a natural girdle. Without hesitation, he vaulted over it, landing softly on the other side. Tilly scrambled after him, Patch close behind, their laughter echoing through the trees. The finish, a circle of bright red mushrooms came into view. The chipmunk pushed harder, cheeks puffed with determination and breath quickening. With a final burst of energy, he crossed the line, tumbling into the soft moss. His friends tumbled after, giggling and breathless. In the glade, victory tasted sweet, but the joy of shared adventure and laughter was the true prize. Count Victor, notorious for his sharp fangs and midnight cravings, sat nervously in the dentist's waiting room, clutching a magazine upside down. The receptionist eyed him warily, her eyes flickering to his pale skin and long, dark cape, but Victor just smiled, careful not to show too much tooth. When Dr. Patel called him in, Victor glided to the chair, cape brushing the floor with a soft whisper. Dr. Patel, unfazed by his eerie presence, snapped on her gloves and smiled warmly. "Open wide," she said. Victor hesitated. He'd faced angry mobs, garlic bread, and sunlit windows, but nothing prepared him for the whir of the dental drill. As she examined his fangs, Victor's stomach growled loudly, echoing in the sterile room. The scent of Dr. Patel's floral cologne made him dizzy, a strange sensation for an immortal. "You really should floss more," she chided gently, poking at a stubborn stain near a fang. Victor whimpered softly. "Is it really necessary?" he asked, voice trembling. "Unless you want plaque for an eternity," she replied with a wink. When she reached for the blood-red mouthwash, Victor's eyes lit up. "May I take that home?" he asked hopefully. Dr. Patel chuckled, handing him a tiny bottle. "Only if you promise to brush twice a night." Victor grinned, relieved, and floated out, his fangs sparkling for the first time in centuries, ready to face the night with a fresh smile. The sun hung mercilessly above a cracked stretch of earth, its heat shimmering over the lonely road. Silas, a traveler with dust on his boots and resolve in his eyes, paused as a figure emerged from behind a sun-bleached boulder. It was Boone, the notorious outlaw whose name sent shivers down every spine from the dry riverbeds to the distant hills. Boone's grin was as sharp as the blade at his hip. "You lost, stranger?" he taunted, hand hovering near his holster. Silas didn't flinch. He tipped his hat, voice steady. "Just passing through. But I hear you never let travelers pass without a contest." Boone's eyes narrowed, the sun casting shadows across his weathered face. "That's right. Draw when you're ready." Silence fell, broken only by the distant cry of a hawk circling overhead and the faint rustle of dry brush in the wind. In a flash, Silas moved. 2 shots rang out, echoing across the wasteland. Boone staggered, clutching his arm, while Silas stood tall, his aim true and steady. Boone's sneer faded into a grudging nod of respect. Silas holstered his weapon, turned, and walked forward, boots stirring the red dust beneath him. The road stretched ahead, empty and endless, but for Silas, it was clear. This was just another step on a long journey through unforgiving lands. Under a velvet sky, 3 musicians crept toward the city's grand museum. The world's most elusive sheet music, said to conjure lost emotions, was locked behind glass, untouched for decades. Lila, nimble-fingered pianist, picked the back door's ancient lock with practiced ease. Tomas, the cellist, pressed his ear to the wall, listening for guards' footsteps, his hearing as sharp in silence as in symphony. Maya, a flutist with nerves of steel, guided them past laser beams with a conductor's precision, her breath steady despite the tension. They reached the prized display. Silver notes danced across yellowed paper, promising melodies no living soul had heard. Lila's heart thudded as she carefully lifted the glass, her hands steady despite the weight of the moment. The trio exchanged a breathless glance, then gently tucked the music between cello strings. As dawn threatened the horizon, they slipped out, unseen and unheard. In a dim attic, sunlight kissed the legendary notes as Lila played the first chord. The room filled with harmonies unknown, each note a secret stolen from time. For a moment, the world held its breath, listening to the stolen symphony come alive once more. The clock in the grand old library chimed midnight. Hidden behind the tall stacks, 3 children, Maya, Leo, and Hazel, held their breath, hearts pounding. The janitor's footsteps echoed down the marble corridor, then faded into silence. The coast was clear. Maya tugged her friends toward the staff-only door, a place forbidden to anyone under 12. Leo pulled a bobby pin from his pocket, and with a careful twist, the lock clicked open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and whispered secrets. On a high shelf rested the prize, a battered box labeled "Do Not Touch." Hazel climbed atop a rickety chair, stretching until her fingers brushed the box's edge. It tumbled into her arms, making them all freeze. No alarms sounded. Giggling softly, they opened the lid. Inside were books with shimmering covers, tales of dragons, invisible cities, and talking shadows. Each book glowed faintly, as if alive. The children dove in, devouring stories until the first rays of dawn crept through stained glass windows. As they tiptoed out, hearts racing, they knew they'd return for more secret stories, if they dared. Rain hammered the cockpit as Captain Riley Pierce scanned the endless green canopy below. Somewhere in that tangled jungle, bandits hid the stolen map, her ticket home and the key to a forgotten treasure. She landed her battered plane on a muddy bank, boots sinking deep into the wet earth as she plunged into the dense undergrowth. Every step crackled with unseen danger, the air thick with humidity and the scent of damp leaves. She moved quietly, senses sharp, until a sudden flash of movement caught her attention. 3 figures huddled by a flickering fire, the map stretched between them like a prize. Riley crept closer, heart pounding in her chest. A branch snapped sharply underfoot. The bandits spun around, brandishing knives that gleamed in the firelight. Riley dove, rolling behind a fallen log just in time. She grabbed a stone and tossed it far to the side, drawing their gaze away, then surged forward. In a blur, she snatched the map, dodging grasping hands and snarled threats. A frantic chase erupted. Through tangled vines, over gnarled roots, desperate breaths and pounding hearts echoing in the jungle. Riley reached the riverbank, leapt into her plane, engine sputtering to life as the bandits shouted behind her. With the map clutched tight, she soared above the jungle canopy, the treasure's secret once again safe in her hands. Rain drummed steadily against the city streets, bouncing off umbrellas and soaking those who hurried without one. Among the crowd, Nora walked unshielded, yet her hair and coat remained perfectly dry, as if protected by some unseen force. With a gentle smile, she paused at the crosswalk, watching a mother struggle to cover her child with a too small poncho. Nora glanced their way, and suddenly the rain seemed to swerve around them, leaving both untouched. The mother blinked in surprise, glancing upward at the empty air, her eyes wide with wonder. Nora kept walking, passing a man whose newspaper threatened to dissolve in the downpour. As she neared, a bubble of dryness followed her, sheltering the man just long enough for him to fold his paper and dash inside a nearby cafe. Throughout the city, small miracles like these happened whenever Nora walked by. People whispered about the mysterious dry spots, never suspecting the unassuming woman with a serene smile and quiet strength. Nora never expected thanks. It was enough to know that, in a city battered by perpetual rain, she could offer invisible shelter where it was needed most, a silent guardian in the storm. In the heart of a fog-wrapped town, young Ellis turned the key to the grand clock tower, its gears groaning with age and years of neglect. As the apprentice to old Mr. Penrose, Ellis spent countless days polishing brass cogs and carefully winding ancient springs, learning the delicate art of clockmaking. One quiet twilight, while tidying beneath the workbench, Ellis noticed a loose floorboard. Curiosity sparked, he pried it open and found a delicate pocket watch unlike any he'd ever seen, engraved with a detailed map of the town and a cryptic inscription, "The heart remembers, what time forgets." Driven by wonder, and a thirst for discovery, Ellis followed the map through winding alleys and shadowed streets to a forgotten cellar hidden beneath the old bakery. There, dust-choked ledgers and faded journals revealed that the town's founders had hidden away inventions deemed too powerful for common knowledge. At the center lay a carefully folded blueprint for a perpetual motion machine, signed by Penrose's ancestor. Ellis realized then that the old clock tower was more than a mere timepiece. It was a guardian of the town's greatest secret. Returning to the tower, clutching the watch and blueprints, Ellis faced Mr. Penrose, who simply smiled, eyes twinkling with quiet pride. "Some secrets," he murmured softly, "are meant to be found only by those who truly listen to the ticking of time." At the stroke of midnight, when the city slept and stars blinked through velvet skies, Tabby leapt onto the polished floor of the hidden library. The endless shelves shimmered with glowing books, their spines pulsing with silvery light like tiny moons. Tabby's striped tail flicked as she padded silently between the aisles, eyes keen for any mischief or disturbance. Only those with pure curiosity and gentle hearts could find the Midnight Library, but not all visitors respected its secrets or the delicate magic within. Tonight, a shadow darted near the forbidden shelf, where the oldest, most powerful tomes rested. Tabby crouched low and sprang, landing before a small, trembling mouse. The mouse clutched the glowing book, words swirling and shifting across its cover like liquid silver. Tabby's whiskers twitched thoughtfully. Instead of scolding, she nudged the book open with her nose. The mouse squeaked in wonder as a gentle story unfolded, painting soft, shimmering pictures in the air that danced like fireflies. Tabby watched, satisfied, as fear melted into awe and wonder. When the story finished, Tabby guided the mouse carefully to the exit, ensuring the library's magic stayed safe and its secrets remained protected for another night. And as dawn crept in, soft and pale, Tabby curled up atop her favorite shelf. A silent guardian, as the books whispered their dreams, and the library waited patiently for midnight's return. A red balloon slipped from Mia's small hand, soaring high above the busy city streets. She watched in dismay as it danced over rooftops, twisting and turning in the cool evening breeze. Tears welled in her eyes. She was lost, separated from her mother in the bustling park filled with strangers. But as darkness crept in, she spotted her balloon bobbing above the crowd, its bright color a beacon in the gray cityscape. Mia followed, weaving carefully between strangers and street vendors, her eyes never leaving the floating guide. The balloon drifted purposefully, pausing at corners as if waiting patiently for her to catch up. It led her past familiar murals painted on brick walls and the bakery with the sweet rolls she loved so much. Hope flickered warmly in Mia's chest. Suddenly, she heard her mother's voice calling her name softly but clearly. The balloon hovered just above the park gate, and there, beneath its gentle shadow, stood her mother, arms open wide and smiling. With a burst of joy, Mia ran to her, feeling safe once again. The balloon, its mission complete, soared upward, catching the last golden rays of sunset as Mia was safely reunited, forever grateful for her unexpected floating guide. In the quiet corner of a bakery, a small candle waited patiently atop a cake, watching the world bustle by. Year after year, it watched other candles burn bright and melt away, celebrating birthdays with laughter and song. But this candle, always overlooked and forgotten, longed deeply for its own special moment to shine. One starry night, as the clock struck midnight, a gentle breeze slipped softly through the open window. The candle, feeling braver than ever before, whispered its wish into the still air. "I wish I could know what it's like to shine, even just once." Suddenly, the room shimmered with a soft, golden glow that wrapped around the candle like a warm hug. The candle found itself atop a beautiful birthday cake, surrounded by joyful faces and eager eyes. A child's eyes sparkled with excitement as the candle was carefully lit. The flame danced happily, casting warm light and playful shadows across the room. For the very first time, the candle wasn't alone or forgotten. As the child made a heartfelt wish and blew out the flame, the candle felt a wave of pure happiness wash over it. Its wish had come true. A single, magical birthday night filled with laughter, warmth, and a true sense of belonging. In the heart of the Golden Palace, where towering columns soared and fragrant incense drifted through the air, a slender cat with eyes like polished jade glided silently through the shadows. Servants whispered her name, Bastet's whisper, believing she moved with a grace touched by the gods themselves. Some claimed she was a bringer of fortune, others a silent omen. When the pharaoh's most trusted cupbearer slipped on a polished tile and spilled wine at the queen's feet, the cat had been curled beside the throne, her tail flicking with quiet amusement. When a scribe misplaced the sacred scrolls, Bastet's whisper was seen vanishing behind a heavy curtain, as if hiding secrets. Rumors grew like desert winds. Was she a mere palace stray, or the silent keeper of hidden truths? One moonlit night, the pharaoh, curious and restless, followed her through torch-lit corridors to the palace's secret garden. There, she sat atop a forgotten statue, eyes fixed unwaveringly on him. In that moment, the pharaoh understood. She was both watcher and watched, a silent guardian of all the palace held dear, forever weaving mystery and magic into its marbled halls. In the heart of Willowbrook stood a peculiar shop, its shelves lined with clocks of every shape and size. Old Mr. Larch, the clockmaker, spent his days winding gears and polishing faces, each tick and tock weaving through the air like a gentle breeze. One evening, as the sun dipped below the rooftops, Mr. Larch finished adjusting his latest creation, a tiny silver timepiece with a delicate melody hidden in its chimes. As midnight approached, the town's clocks began to chime in perfect unison, their notes echoing softly through the empty streets. Windows opened slowly. People paused. Bakers, teachers, and children alike listened in awe. The melody seemed to dance from house to house, inviting everyone to join in. Without a word, neighbors found themselves stepping outside, humming along, and soon laughter and voices filled the square. For the first time in many years, the townsfolk felt connected, their hearts beating with the same gentle rhythm as the clocks. Mr. Larch smiled quietly, knowing his tune had brought the town together, if only for a fleeting moment of harmony. Lila adored her grandmother's old dollhouse. It was a wooden relic, nestled in the corner of her room, filled with tiny hand-painted furniture and delicate porcelain dolls. Each evening, she carefully arranged the miniature beds, set the table with tiny plates and cups, and placed the dolls just so, imagining stories for each one. But every morning, without fail, she'd wake to find her work undone. Chairs would be stacked atop tables, dolls clustered in corners, their faces turned to the walls. Sometimes, the little piano was flipped upside down, keys facing the ceiling. Lila asked her parents if they'd moved her toys, but they just smiled, shaking their heads. One night, determined to solve the mystery, Lila hid under her covers with a flashlight, peeking through a small gap. Midnight arrived. The room grew cold, shadows deepened, and the dollhouse creaked softly. Slowly, the tiny dolls began to move. Their porcelain limbs jerked awkwardly as they shuffled across floors, dragging furniture behind them. Lila's breath caught. She couldn't look away, frozen in place. When dawn crept in, everything was silent again. The dollhouse stood, rearranged. From that day, Lila never touched the dolls again. A single white feather drifted into the sleepy village of Elmswood, landing softly on the worn windowsill of Marnie's cottage. She paused, mid-sweep, drawn by its delicate shimmer and the way it seemed to hum with gentle purpose. Marnie picked up the feather, tracing the lines with her thumb. It was oddly familiar, stirring memories of quiet mornings spent at the pond's edge, watching swans glide gracefully under the dawn's first light. That evening, she wandered to the pond, feather in hand, the cool air filled with the scent of damp earth and blooming lilies. There she found old Tom, sitting with his boots off, toes skimming the water's surface. Tom's eyes widened at the feather. He pulled a matching one from his coat pocket, weathered and cherished from years past. Their laughter echoed softly across the water as they realized the feathers belonged to the same swan, long gone but never forgotten. Soon, others gathered, each holding their own found feathers, tokens collected over seasons, tucked away in drawers, pockets, and books. As twilight settled and stars began to twinkle, a gentle understanding passed among them all. Sometimes the smallest things carry the deepest meaning, weaving unseen threads that bring hearts together once more. Beneath the tangled boughs, where moonlight barely kissed the earth, a tiny lantern glimmered atop a mossy stone. Its gentle green glow warmed the cool night air, casting soft light on the winding roots and velvet leaves that carpeted the forest floor. Every night, without fail, the mossy lantern flickered to life, powered by dewdrops gathered at dawn and the soft hum of crickets hidden in the underbrush. Forest creatures knew its promise well. No one need wander lost in the vast woods. Luna the mouse, shivering after a sudden rainstorm, spotted the glow faintly through the thick brambles. Guided by its steady light, she scampered carefully over slippery pebbles and slipped under ferns heavy with moisture, her heart steadying with each cautious step. An owl's shadow swept silently overhead, but Luna pressed on, drawn by the lantern's quiet, unwavering radiance. As she neared, the path grew clearer, the night less daunting, and the air filled with the scent of damp earth and pine. At the mossy stone, she found not only the lantern, but a gathering of friends, hedgehogs, rabbits, and beetles, each once lost, now safe and warm. The lantern's keeper, an old snail with a shell like polished jade, smiled gently. "As long as the lantern glows, home is never far," he whispered softly. And so, the mossy lantern shone on, a beacon of hope and comfort in the heart of the forest's deep, shadowed realm. Eli stared at the empty hook by the door, lips pursed in frustration. The silver keys were gone, vanished without a trace. Grandpa shuffled in, humming a cheerful tune, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Lost something important?" he asked gently. Eli nodded, biting his lip. Without a word, Grandpa grabbed a flashlight from the shelf and handed Eli a magnifying glass. Their grand quest began in the living room, searching under couch cushions and behind the old grandfather clock. Grandpa even checked the cookie jar, just in case. Eli peeked inside Grandpa's worn boots, finding only lint and a stray pebble. The search moved upstairs to the attic, where dust motes danced in golden sunbeams. Grandpa carefully lifted heavy boxes while Eli scanned the creaky floorboards. "Any luck so far?" Grandpa called out. Eli shook his head but smiled at Grandpa's funny hat, now crooked and slipping over one ear. Back downstairs, Eli suddenly heard a faint jingle. He followed the sound to the kitchen, where, beside the fruit bowl, the keys gleamed in the sunlight. Eli grinned and waved them triumphantly. Grandpa patted his shoulder, chuckling warmly. "Sometimes, the best adventures happen when you're looking for something else," he said softly. Eli slipped the keys onto the hook, his heart light and full, adventure complete. In the sun-baked heart of a dusty town, a gold coin engraved with a cactus glinted faintly in the sand. It first caught the eye of young Clara, who, desperate to save her ailing horse, used it to buy a rare tonic from Doc Harlan. The doc, grateful for the payment, slipped the coin into his pocket, only to lose it later that evening at the card table to a traveling gambler named Silas. Silas, riding a streak of luck, flipped the coin for a drink at the bustling saloon, where barkeep Martha admired the rare cactus mark and carefully tucked it away. Later, old Jed, sweeping the floor, spotted the coin where Martha had dropped it. He used it to buy a fresh loaf from the baker, who marveled at its shine and, moved by its beauty, gifted it to his daughter for her birthday. That night, the baker's daughter, dreaming of far-off places and adventure, hid the coin in the hollow of an ancient, twisted cactus at the edge of town. There it lay, waiting silently for the next hand to find it, its quiet journey weaving stories through the lives of those who called the dusty town home. In the small town of Willow Lane, invitations fluttered into every mailbox for the Grand Friendship Festival, except one. Milo, who lived at the very edge of the village, waited eagerly each morning, but his mailbox stayed empty. As colorful banners went up and laughter filled the air, Milo grew lonelier, wondering why he'd been forgotten. On the eve of the festival, a strong breeze swept through the town, carrying a tattered envelope across the fields. It landed at the feet of Elsie, a shy girl who had moved in recently and also hadn't received an invitation. Curious, she carefully opened it and saw Milo's name inside. Instead of keeping it, Elsie decided to find him. When she reached Milo's cozy cottage, she handed him the letter and suggested they go together. Hesitant but hopeful, Milo agreed, feeling a spark of excitement. As they entered the festival hand in hand, people welcomed them warmly with smiles and cheers. They soon realized no one had meant to leave them out. The wind had simply played a trick. That night, Milo and Elsie danced under strings of glowing lanterns, grateful for the lost invitation that sparked a wonderful new friendship and a night they would always remember. Mia's favorite red coat was missing a button. It wasn't just any button. It was shaped like a tiny cat, with painted whiskers and a cheerful smile that always made her happy. After noticing the gap on her coat, Mia knelt down, carefully searching the wooden floor. Under the table, nothing. Behind the old blue chair, just dust bunnies and a stray crumb. Determined, she retraced her steps, peering under the rug and lifting the cushions on the sofa. She even checked her pockets twice, hoping it might have slipped inside. Still no luck. Mia didn't give up. She remembered playing in the garden earlier that morning, chasing butterflies and picking flowers. Outside, she searched beneath the rose bush, careful not to prick her fingers on the thorns. The grass tickled her knees as she crawled around, looking closely at every leaf and stone. Suddenly, a glint caught her eye near the stepping stones. There, nestled beside a small white daisy, was the cat button, its painted smile bright as ever. Giggling with relief, Mia scooped it up and raced inside. Her mother smiled warmly and sewed the button back onto her coat while Mia watched, proud of her perseverance and careful search. From that day on, Mia always checked her buttons before and after every adventure, making sure none ever went missing again. In a quiet town, Milo wandered the dusty aisles of a long-abandoned thrift shop. His curiosity snagged on an odd item, an ornate mask, its surface shimmering with shifting patterns that seemed to ripple like liquid light. Drawn by an urge he couldn't explain, Milo hesitated only a moment before slipping it over his face. Instantly, the world sharpened around him. Sounds blossomed into vivid colors, scents formed swirling shapes that danced before his eyes. He blinked, and suddenly he was standing atop the shop's roof, the ground far below. Panic rose, but the mask whispered calm, guiding his unsteady limbs. Milo leapt, landing softly in the alley, heart pounding with exhilaration and disbelief. Over the next days, the mask revealed more secrets, the ability to vanish into shadows, to hear whispers carried on the wind, to see the faint glow of kindness in strangers' eyes. Yet, each gift came with a price. Removing the mask left him aching for its power, but wearing it too long made reality waver at the edges, blurring the line between what was real and what was illusion. Milo faced a choice: keep the mask and its wonders, or return to his ordinary life, safe but dull. He hesitated, the mask warm and alive against his skin, as the night called out for a new legend to rise. Commander Orion drifted through the cold silence of his pod, light years from home. His only company was the gentle blinking of control panels and the steady hum of recycled air. He'd long given up hope of rescue after his ship malfunctioned, leaving him stranded in orbit around a barren, lifeless moon. Days blurred into weeks, and his voice recorder captured only the echoes of his loneliness and fading memories of Earth. One restless night, as Orion adjusted the static-filled comms, a faint signal pierced the emptiness, a message, distorted but unmistakably human. His heart raced with a sudden surge of hope. He carefully cleaned the transmission, revealing a voice from decades past. "If you're hearing this, you're not alone. The escape thrusters respond to a manual override behind Panel 7. Orion scrambled, prying open the dusty panel. Wires and forgotten circuits greeted him, but within moments, the thrusters hummed back to life. Tears welled in his eyes as his pod lurched forward, propelled toward the distant blue glow of home. The forgotten signal had not only saved his life, it reminded him that hope could echo across the stars, waiting patiently to be found. At the stroke of midnight, Marianne's doorbell echoed through the quiet house. She hesitated, heart pounding, but the persistent ringing forced her to answer. On her porch stood a gaunt figure in a tattered coat, rainwater trailing behind him like dark tears. "May I come in? Just for a moment," he whispered, voice barely audible. Something in his hollow eyes made her uneasy, but courtesy overruled her instincts. She nodded, and he glided silently inside, leaving a faint chill in the air. Marianne offered tea, but the guest declined, settling instead into her grandmother's old rocking chair. He rocked slowly, eyes never leaving hers, as if searching for something unseen. Minutes stretched into hours, the grandfather clock ticking louder with each swing, filling the silence with its relentless beat. "It's late," Marianne ventured, voice trembling. "Should I call you a cab?" The guest smiled, thin and cold, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'll leave when I'm ready," he said softly. She watched as shadows crept across the walls, the air growing colder, heavier. The chair creaked, but he didn't move. Marianne blinked, and his shape seemed to blur, as if he were fading into the dim light. Yet every time she looked away, he was still there, rocking, waiting, a guest who refused to ever leave. The night stretched on, endless and unyielding, and Marianne realized some visitors never take their leave. Under a silver moon, Clara paced the empty streets of Maplewood, her camera slung around her neck like a trusted companion. She'd always felt invisible, her passion for photography quietly tucked away, a secret she rarely shared. But that night, a strange ethereal glow caught her eye near the old clock tower. Drawn by curiosity, she raised her lens and captured a single shot. A stray dog, its fur gleaming under the moonlight, standing atop the worn steps, staring intently into the sky as if waiting for a sign from beyond. The next morning, Clara carefully printed the photo and posted it on the town's bulletin board. By noon, whispers spread through the streets. People saw hope in the dog's proud stance, courage in its unwavering eyes. The photo traveled quickly, from storefronts to the mayor's desk, igniting something long dormant. Soon, neighbors began repainting houses, picking up litter, and lending hands in small, meaningful ways. The town's spirit, once faded and weary, flickered alive again. Local papers ran the photo, dubbing it the Moonlit Miracle. Clara, once unnoticed and shy, was now the town's chronicler, her quiet passion finally recognized. Yet, it was the town itself that truly changed. One photo taken at midnight, sparking a new dawn by morning. Rain pattered softly against the window as Lena rummaged through the dusty attic, her breath visible in the cold air. Her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic tangled in cobwebs, a small, iron key, aged and forgotten. Strange. She'd never seen it before in the house. Drawn by a sudden curiosity, she descended the creaking stairs and wandered down the dim hallway, stopping before a door she'd always assumed was just a closet. The key fit perfectly into the lock. With a hesitant twist, the lock clicked open. The door groaned as it swung inward, revealing a thick, inky blackness beyond. Lena's flashlight flickered uncertainly as she stepped inside. The air was heavy, thick with dust and long-held secrets. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with faded journals and peculiar trinkets covered in layers of grime. In the center of the room sat a worn wooden table. On it lay a single envelope, addressed to her in elegant, looping handwriting. Heart-pounding, Lena tore it open. The note inside read, "If you're reading this, you've found what I hid. Keep it safe. They will come looking." Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the hallway outside. Lena spun around, her heart racing wildly, clutching the key tightly in her hand. The door creaked ominously, shadows shifting just beyond the threshold. She realized then she'd unlocked more than just a door. She'd awakened something that had waited silently for years, something that was now coming for her. Ben's sneakers crunched over the bark chips as he raced toward the swings. Something shiny caught his eye beneath the slide. He knelt down, brushing aside the wood chips, and his fingers closed around a small, old-fashioned key. Its surface was cool and heavy in his palm, the metal worn smooth by time. Ben glanced around. No one else seemed to notice. Was it a lost locker key? A forgotten treasure? He studied the playground, searching for a lock. The monkey bars, the seesaw, even the fence gate, nothing fit. His curiosity grew stronger. He checked the base of the big oak tree, running his hands along the rough bark. There, hidden behind a patch of moss, he found a tiny rusty lock fixed to a weathered wooden box. Heart-pounding, Ben slid the key into the lock. It turned with a satisfying click. Inside the box lay a crumpled note. "For the finder, may you always discover the hidden wonders." Ben smiled, tucking the key and note carefully into his pocket. From that day on, he knew he'd never look at the playground the same way again. Nimbus was not your ordinary tabby. Perched atop the rickety railing of the Sky Galleon cloud chaser, his green eyes narrowed as the wind ruffled his silver fur. Somewhere in the captain's quarters below, his late owner's sapphire locket, a precious family heirloom, was hidden among the treasures stolen by the infamous sky pirate, Captain Drake. Tonight, Nimbus would retrieve it. He slipped through a cracked window, tail low, paws silent against the polished wood. Lanterns cast golden halos, but Nimbus moved in shadows, blending with the night. He darted past snoring crew, heart thudding, until he reached a chest adorned with intricate brass locks. With a practiced flick of his claw, the latch gave way. Inside, gold coins, ancient maps, and finally the locket glimmering beneath a velvet pouch. At that moment, Drake's heavy boots thundered outside. Nimbus seized the locket in his mouth and leaped onto a rope rigging. The captain's furious shouts faded as Nimbus swung into the night sky, landing on a passing cloud barge. Safe, the locket warm against his chest, Nimbus gazed at the moon, a silent promise kept. In a tiny attic where dust motes danced lazily in the golden sunlight, 10-year-old Felix tinkered with wires, springs, and bits of scrap metal. His small fingers, smudged with graphite and grease, carefully twisted a copper coil into place. The makeshift contraption, a jumble of batteries, magnets, and a battered tin can, sat ready on the wooden floorboards. Felix took a deep breath and flipped the switch. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a faint whir, the tin can began to spin, lights flickered, and a tiny motor buzzed to life. Felix's eyes widened, his heart pounding with excitement. He had done it. His homemade generator worked, the attic filled with the warm smell of heated metal and the joyful sound of Felix's laughter. That day, something ignited inside him, brighter than any bulb he could power. Years passed, but the memory of that spinning can lingered in his mind. Whenever Felix faced setbacks or moments of doubt, he'd close his eyes and recall the attic's dusty sunlight and the thrill of his first discovery. As an adult, surrounded by blueprints, patents, and prototypes, Felix credited every achievement to that single, magical afternoon. His childhood experiment had sparked not just a motor, but a lifelong journey of invention and wonder. In the heart of Mosswood, where ancient trees whispered secrets and sunlight danced through emerald leaves, a nimble squirrel named Pip darted swiftly between roots and ferns. One crisp morning, while searching for acorns to store for winter, Pip's tiny paw struck something cold and hard beneath a thick, mossy stone. Curious, he carefully brushed aside the soft green carpet and uncovered a tiny, ornate key shimmering with intricate blue and gold patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the dappled light. Pip's whiskers twitched with excitement and wonder. Clutching the mysterious key tightly, he scampered deeper into the forest, his mind racing with endless possibilities. After a while, he stumbled upon a hollow tree trunk with a peculiar, key-shaped notch carved into its bark. His heart pounding with anticipation, Pip slid the magical key into the slot. The ancient tree creaked and groaned, then slowly swung open to reveal a glowing chamber filled with twinkling lights and hidden treasures. Forgotten seeds, shiny stones, and the sweet scent of wildflowers. Pip gazed in awe, realizing he had unlocked a secret world tucked away for those brave and curious enough to seek it. With a joyful heart, he returned to the woods. Knowing he had found more than just a key, he had discovered a place of wonder and magic that would forever change his days. The rain pounded relentlessly against the old porch roof as Leah hesitated at the door, suitcase clutched tightly in her hand. She hadn't seen her brother Marcus in years, not since harsh words, sharper than lightning, had torn them apart. Now thunder rumbled ominously above as she raised her hand and knocked, heart pounding wildly. The door creaked open, and Marcus stood there, older, wearier, his eyes widening in surprise. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, the storm's roar filled the heavy silence. Leah stepped inside, shivering from the cold and the weight of the past. Marcus offered her a towel, his hand lingering a second longer than necessary. "You're soaked," he murmured softly. Leah managed a shaky smile. "The bus broke down," she explained quietly. They settled by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass in endless rivulets. Conversation faltered, then slowly began to flow. Apologies surfaced, awkward and halting, but sincere. Outside, lightning illuminated the yard where they once played as children. Inside, the warmth of shared memories gradually melted the chill between them. When the storm finally passed, Leah knew something old had been quietly mended, sheltered in the thunderous night's embrace. Rain tapped gently on the windows of the magic bookshop as Lila wandered between the shelves, her fingers trailing over old spines. She paused, drawn by a worn copy of The Lantern's Promise. As she reached for it, another hand brushed hers. Startled, she looked up to see a stranger, blue coat, curious eyes, smiling sheepishly. "Sorry," he said. "This book always finds me on rainy days." Lila laughed, surprised. "It's my favorite too." They settled into the cozy reading nook, the story open between them. The shop seemed to fade away as they took turns reading aloud, their voices weaving through the tale of lanterns and wishes. The pages turned, laughter mingled, and the world outside blurred into a watercolor of grays and golds. Time slipped by unnoticed, wrapped in the warmth of shared words. When the last page fluttered shut, a soft silence settled. The stranger offered his name, Ely, and Lila found herself hoping for another rainy afternoon just like this. As they left the shop, the rain had stopped, but something gentle lingered in the air, as if the story had quietly written a new beginning for them both. Amid the chaos of Terminal B, Nora's suitcase vanished somewhere between the carousel and the coffee stand. Frustrated, she followed the baggage clerk through a maze of humming conveyor belts and forgotten trunks piled high. One battered suitcase, marked with a silver keyhole, caught her eye. When she touched the handle, the world flickered. Suddenly, the harsh fluorescent lights dimmed, replaced by a warm golden glow. She found herself in a hidden realm beneath the airport, a bustling city of tiny creatures, each lugging miniature bags, boarding feathered trains, and sipping sparkling nectar from crystal cups. A friendly bellhop with delicate wings greeted her. "Welcome, traveler. Luggage here holds memories and dreams. Yours must be special." Nora realized her suitcase wasn't lost. It was a key to this secret world. She wandered through stalls selling maps to forgotten places and shoes that danced on their own, marveling at the magic all around. When she finally returned, suitcase in hand, the airport seemed ordinary again. But Nora knew magic lingered, just beneath the baggage claim, waiting for the next traveler to discover it. One rainy afternoon, Max noticed his favorite blue sock was missing. He searched under the bed, behind the dresser, and even inside his shoes, but it was nowhere to be found. Puzzled, he called his younger sister Lily for help. Together they made a careful list, checked the laundry basket, the toy chest, and the sofa cushions. As they searched, they uncovered stray socks of every color and size scattered around, but never the elusive blue one. Lily giggled, suggesting their dog, Buster, might be the culprit behind the disappearing sock. They followed a trail of chewed-up slippers and finally spotted a tiny blue thread leading to Buster's cozy bed. There, tucked beneath his favorite blanket, was the missing sock, slobbery but safe. Max laughed as Lily declared the case officially solved. They washed the sock and decided to start a new tradition. Whoever lost a sock would help the other find it. As they placed the clean sock back in the drawer, they shared a secret grin, already looking forward to their next playful mystery together. Detective Mara Lynn moved quietly through the dimly lit archives, dust motes swirling in the beams of her flashlight. The city above buzzed with its usual chaos, but down here, time seemed frozen. She was searching for clues in a cold case long abandoned, hoping for something overlooked by others. Her fingers brushed over brittle folders until she found an unmarked envelope wedged between two ledgers. Inside, she discovered a stack of black and white photographs. Each image captured faceless figures in familiar city alleys, places Mara passed every day, now eerily empty in the photos. In one frame, a shadow stretched across cobblestones, longer than the figure casting it. Mara's heart quickened as she recognized the outline of a vanished statue, rumored to have disappeared decades ago. Piecing together the images, she realized they formed a silent map of lost landmarks and forgotten tragedies. The photographs whispered stories of a city that had changed, yet still held its secrets close. In that cold silence, Mara understood. The city's secrets were always there, waiting patiently to be revealed by those who dared to look closely and listen carefully.